this way. Just throw it.
There you go. I got it.
That's good. It's all good. Sure.
How's it going?
It's nice to see you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى محمد وعلى محمد. Before I begin, let's recite a Surah Fatiha for Marhum Haji Moulana Kazmi. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The verse that I recited is from Surah Furqan, verse number 30. I recited this verse last night and we spoke and explored a little bit under this ayah as far as the word mahjur is concerned. The translation of the ayah goes as this, that the messenger will say, Lord, my people had abandoned this Quran. And the word abandoned was explained as the word hajara, which also has a root of, from mahjura, the root is hajara, which means to also do hijrat. When you do hijrat, that means you migrate from one land to another. That means you leave something behind. So leaving something behind, that concept is to abandon something, is to leave something in your past and move forward with it. So we find that this is the claim that Rasulullah will be making. This is the shikayat, if you want to call it, that Rasulullah will be making on the Day of Judgment, that, oh Lord, my people abandoned this book. Now we explain as to what does the word abandonment means and how different means of abandonment exist there. Inshallah, we'll go in the details of that tonight. We look at that Quran is mazloom. The same way Ahlul Bayt are mazloom. When you recite that hadith of our Prophet, Inni tarikum fikum al-taqalain, both taqalain, Ahlul Bayt as well as Quran, both are mazloom. Why? Because we did not understand Ahlul Bayt and did not pay respect, and we did not gave that ajr risalat properly towards the qurba. Similarly, this Quran, if this ayah did not exist, still we would acclaim to it that yes, we stranded, we left this Quran, we did not follow this Quran, we abandoned this Quran. Muslims are actually the first one to do injustice to this Quran, let alone others. Others, we don't have to really expect anything from them, but it is the Muslims who themselves have done injustice to this Quran. How have we done injustice to this Quran? Some by interpreting it wrong, giving wrong examples, using those verses and using those ayat to their advantage, to prove something wrong and to misinterpret these verses of Quran. Some by limiting its usage and its purpose. Some of us, believe it or not, have limited this Quran beyond the sphere that this Quran belongs to, and all of the infinite, unlimited possibilities that it could provide to us. We have limited this Quran. The purpose and the usage of this Quran is very limited. We'll go in the details of that as well. Number 3, some by focusing on the verses of qital and ayat mutashabih, resembling verses. By that, they go ahead and they abandon this book. They pick out certain ayat and they look at the context of it, they look at the meaning of it, and then they say, well, this book is not for me, because so-and-so ayat exists in it, because so-and-so thing exists in it. All of these become different reasons for what? For abandonment of Quran. First one, as I mentioned, some by interpreting it wrong. We gave one example last night. If you remember the example of tatma'innul qulub, itminan qalb. I won't repeat that example because there are other examples that I have to get to. If you want, you can listen to it. I think the recording is there. The example was of itminan qalb in reference to contradiction in Quran. That some people recite these verses and they pick out what contradictions in Quran. They say, well, there are many contradictions that exist within this Quran. And so there was a person who actually started writing a book by the name Ishaq Kindi. In the time of our 11th Imam, he compiled a book called Tanaqudat al-Quran, where he collected the verses which were what? Contradictory to others. We gave an example last night, we'll give other examples tonight. For example, the ayat of Surah Nisa, verse number 3. And bear with me as I explain the ayah, so don't jump to the conclusion as I recite the translation of it without understanding it. It says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. It's an ayat of Quran which apparently gives permission for men to marry up to 4 or take up to 4 wives. Once again, I said, don't jump to the conclusion before you listen to the entire argument. It says, if you fear, Surah Nisa, verse number 3. If you fear that you may not deal justly with the orphans, then marry other women that you like, 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear that you may not treat them fairly, then marry only one. This is the ayat of Quran. Now there are a lot of questions, I'm sure, arising in your minds, and inshallah we'll try and address those questions. So apparently it seems like Quran is giving license to men to go ahead and take up to 4 wives, if they are able to do what is called be just with them. To be able to treat them with justice, you may take up to 4. That's what the apparent ayat is telling us. But right away in Surah Nisa, verse number 129, this was verse number 3. 129, Allah says, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ هَرَسْتُمْ. The first one, it gave the permission, but with limitation. What was the limitation? That you must do what? Justice. In this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes ahead and says what? He said, you will not be able to do justice or be fair between wives, even if you are eager to do so. So apparently, gave permission in ayah 3 and abolished it, abrogated it, revoked it in ayah number 129. That's what it seems like. So here we look at that how, well, let's not deviate from the subject. Contradiction in Quran, right? He said, well, one place Allah is apparently giving the permission, and another place Allah is actually abrogating it. He said, well, how can He say that you have, go ahead and treat them justly, and then later on say, well, you can never be fair to them and treat them justly. Is there any contradiction between? First talks about justice by providing nan and nafaqah, the physical needs of the human being, like the house, the shelter, the place to live, clothes, and all those things. Second talks about the matters related to your love and mercy and compassion towards them. He said you may be able to provide them equal amount of opportunities as far as physical needs are concerned, but you will never be able to share the same heart with all of them. So you may be able to do justice and be fair to them when it comes to physical needs, but you will never be just with them when it comes to this love and compassion. But question arises, and then after addressing the contradiction, going back to the question that may be in your minds, why even consent for, to begin with? Why even give the permission to go ahead and then cancel it out later on. Because this is a law which is now being used. People use this and then they quote this ayah. Oh, there's a reason. If any Muslim, if he knows no laws of Islam, but he knows this law. Every man, they may not know any laws of Islam, but they know this law, that there's an ayat of Quran that exists which talks about giving permission to marry more than one. Well, that's their focus on it. So why even give the consent to begin with? Islam inherited monogamous society. It did not introduce monogamy, or rather it did not introduce polygamy. Islam inherited polygamous society. It did not introduce polygamy to the people. I said it the other way. Monogamy is one, polygamy is more than one. So it inherited. That was a time in Arabia when people used to marry 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. And it was a norm in the society at that time. And in fact, the women were not even given any rights whatsoever. What Islam did in that society is to curve the law and practices and put guidelines and limitations while limiting it only to 4. You say, well, it's still at that time when coming from a society which is marrying 15 and 20 and 30 without any count, not even remembering, to bring him to 4 and to curve the law and to make guidelines and limitation, it's a big jihad to go ahead and limit the society up until this moment. And there have been many discussions done in this regard. You'll find how it is actually difficult. It was also in the context that when, at that time, when people would travel, would go with Prophet for wars and for battles, that was the time, for example, in Battle of Uhud, if 73 Muslims were killed, that means in Medina there were 73 widows waiting. Right? In other words, if Muslim lives were lost, that means there were all of these widows that were waiting. That's why the Quran ayah says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُنْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى, talks about these who are yatim, that came and became your, you were raising them, these yatim girls, and then talks about these widows. So it was always the concept of sheltering those who did not have any shelter. So I hope I've done justice to this discussion, but the main discussion was some by misinterpreting the ayat of Quran. Number 2, fear Allah the way He deserves to be feared, or fear according to your ability. There are 2 ayat in Quran. Apparently it seems like there's a contradiction. First ayat in Surah Al-Imran, verse number 102, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah haqqa tuqatihi. All those who believe, fear Allah the way He deserves to be feared. That's setting the, limit, right? Threshold. The way He deserves to be feared. Worship Allah haqqa ibadah, the way He's supposed to be worshipped. So fear Allah haqqa tuqatih, the way He's supposed to be feared. And then you find at another place in Quran, in Surah Taghabun, verse number 16, it says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah according to your ability. Do your best. So when is it do your best or be perfect, the same? Some people raise these 2 ayat and they say, look, apparent contradiction in Quran. At one place Quran says, fear Allah according to your ability, and different abilities have different means. And then at one place Quran says, fear Allah the way He's supposed to be feared. So doing your best as opposed to being perfect are 2 different things. Therefore there's a contradiction in Quran. Is there any contradiction? No. If you do tamassuk to the kalam of Ma'asumeen alayhimus salatu wassalam, you find that there isn't any contradiction. When Ma'asumeen were posed with this question, Imam responded that the first says fear as should be feared, second fear as much as you can. What is the difference between the 2? He said when it says mastata'atum, that fear the way you can or what best of your ability, that means get on the path. But when it says haqqa tuqatihi, that is your destination. So there isn't any contradiction between the 2. In fact, this is the parallel that you can draw between them. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So some abandon this Quran by misinterpreting the ayat. Number 3, is hell a gigantic place or rather small? Once again, those who are looking at these ayat of Quran, just picking out these ayat where they can go ahead and draw some sort of contradiction and pose this in front of fellow Muslims. And, their friends or even their own peers from non-Muslim background or Muslims. Just to cause this, difficulty in a sense that they abandon this book. Is hell a big place, a gigantic place, or is it a small, tiny little bit place? Well, the ayat of Quran both exist. Surah Qaf, verse number 30 says, يَوْمَ نَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمْ هَلِمْ تَلَاتِي وَتَقُولُ هَلْ مِن مَزِيدٍ. On that day we shall ask hell, are you full? And it will reply, are there more? Are there any more? Keep on sending. There's enough room over here. So that tells you, this ayah tells you, that hell is a huge place, humongous. That as many you drop in it, there will be enough room to put even more. And that's why a Quranic ayah is an analogy, is placing this question, are you full? The response will be no. Are there more? Keep on sending, not a problem. And so some ahadith in this reference you'll find in Bukhari and other books, that God will put his foot into the hell and then it will be full. Oh, well, we don't go to that extent. But we see that the hell, according to this ayat, is what? It's a humongous place. To be able to cater all of those who will be bound toward hell. But then another place in Quran, in Surah Furqan, verse number 13, it says, وَإِذَا أُلْقُوا مِنْهَا مَكَانًا ضَيَّقًا مُقَرَّنِينَ دَعَوْا هُنَالِكَ ثُبُورًا. And when they are cast into a narrow place, in it, bound together in chains, they will pray for their own annihilation. Again, they're thrown into what? This narrow place. So over there, the ayat is referring that it's a huge, humongous place. Over here in this ayat is saying it's a very narrow place. What does that mean? That means there's contradiction in Quran. Once again, mine is to go ahead and abandon this book, to drive people away from this book, so create these sort of contradictions and conflicts in Quran. Is there any contradiction? No. But hell is both huge and tight as well. So what does that mean? Either it's huge or it's not. Either it's big or it's small. How can you say that it's also big and also small? There are many ways of answering this. I'll just give one example so that even, although there are not many youngsters here, but even the youngsters in the back, the girls, they will understand. Now, for example, if I was to say, imagine if this was a wall. How many nails can you stroke into this wall? So, well, it's a huge wall. I don't know, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000. God knows. We'll have to try. Don't try. It's a beautiful wall. You can throw, nail as many as you want. You can hammer in maybe 1,000, 2,000 nails in there. So it's a huge wall as far as a nail is concerned, right? Small little nail is concerned. It can encompass 2,000 nails in there. But each nail that goes into the wall goes into a very tight and narrow place. Hell is the same way. It is humongous. It can encompass as many as you throw in there. But every single person who's entered into this hell is going to be in a very tight and narrow place, just like this nail goes into the wall. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that's the mazlumiyat of Quran. Number two, some by limiting Quran's usage and its purpose. Many of us are the victim of that. We have limited Quran's, Quran is not limited, but we have limited the usage of Quran. I'll give you some examples, see if you see these examples in your life. We place it on the highest shelf in our houses for respect, but it never gets touched because it's so up high. We use it when someone is going on a trip. We recite Yasin when someone dies. I'm not denouncing the recitation of Quran Khani on Jelum or Barsi or Soyam or Barsi, but that is the only time we open this book to read it. Nowadays, you don't even have any excuses that, oh, I don't have wudu, I don't want to touch Quran without wudu. First of all, if you don't touch the words of Quran, you don't have to have the wudu. It's good to do the wudu before you recite Quran, but recitation is not, wudu is not a prerequisite for recitation of Quran. Wudu is a prerequisite for touching Quran. You cannot touch, you can't touch the Quran without wudu. So that excuse is also out of the question. You can just hold the Quran in a way that you're not touching the words. Even if then, you have all these gadgets in your hands where everyone has Quranic app and whatnot. All it does, it takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go ahead and recite Quran. So, have we abandoned this book? How many times a week do we pick up? I didn't say how many times a day. So how many times a week we pick up this book? The distance that has been created from this book is just unimaginable. I gave an example. Ameen, when a child finishes Quran, is a good thing. It's an encouragement for the child. It should be done. So it encourages others that they will be celebrated once they finish Quran. But what happens after we rush towards doing this Ameen? Then the kid closes the Quran, and 10 years later or 5 years later, they don't even know how to read it anymore. You know, people, and it's again not a knock on anyone. I'm being a humble student, and I'm just letting it out. The things that I've seen, people will be, you know, they'll be able to solve the most difficult of the mathematical, equations. They have so much brains to be able to solve, you know, the laws of physics and the laws of mathematics, but they will be struggling to recite the very verses of Quran. That means if you put your head to something, you'll be able to accomplish it. It's not that difficult of a feat. But it is because of the abandonment, that how we have abandoned this book from our lives. Quran is Samit. Ahl Bayt are Natiq. Samit and Natiq, what's the difference? Samit, that which is quiet, silent. Natiq, that one who speaks. You're all Samit right now. I'm the only Natiq over here, right? So that's the example of it. Quran is Samit. It doesn't speak. Ahl Bayt are Natiq. They spoke Quran. And therefore Quran itself, being Samit, being silent, and take my words, could be misleading and could be a guide. It could do both. You say, how can Quran be misleading? I'll give you an example. Example of Battle of Siffin. These people, enemies of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they had brought Quran and the chapters of Quran raised on spears. It was misleading. This Quran was what? Misleading people. They said, oh look, these people believe in Quran. Why are we fighting with them? And then stranded and abandoned Quran and Natiq, which was Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen had to withdraw. So Quran without Ahl Bayt could be what? Could be misleading, as this example is there. But if you take it with Ahl Bayt, even if the head is severed of Hussein and is lifted on the spear, it is still reciting the ayat of Quran. That's how it could be a guide to people. So some of us have abandoned this Quran by what? By using and limiting the purpose of this Quran. Using it only on certain occasions. Using it only when someone gets married, for example. You give hadiyah of Quran, or they pass under the Quran. When they're traveling, for example. When someone dies, for example. When you go to Qabristan, for example, you recite Quran and you recite Surah Yasin, that to limit the usage of Quran. That is us. We have limited the usage of this Quran. Our fifth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, said, Man qara asharat ayat fi laylatin lam yaktub min al-ghafilin wa man qara 50 ayatan katab Allahu or kutiba min al-dhakirin. The one who recites 10 verses every night. It's not a big deal, 10 verses. How long does it take? 10 verses may take you 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 verses. That's all there is being offered. If someone recites 10 verses every night, lam yaktub min al-ghafilin. He will not be amongst those who are ghafil, heedless. He will not be considered amongst ghafilin. And then if the person recites 50 ayat, he will be addressed and considered amongst those who are dhakirin, those who do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And lastly, some by focusing on the verses of Qital and ayat mutashabih. There are many verses of Quran, as the ayat of Surah Al-Imran, verse number 7, addresses that هُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ مِنْهُ آيَاتٌ مُحْكَمَاتٌ هُنَّ أُمُّ الْكِتَابِ وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَاتٌ. That there are both types of verses that exist in Quran. It is He who has sent down to you the book, parts of it are definitive verses, which are the mother of the book, while others are metaphorical. So you'll find both types of verses in Quran. Some people only focus their entire abilities and attention towards the metaphorical verses, Hence they lost track of Quran. But even if they stuck to بَعْضُهُمْ يُفَسِّرُ بَعْض, that some of the verses of the Quran do the tafsir of other verses, they would have been able to figure them out. But no, nonetheless, these people only focus on certain ayat. For example, they'll focus and they'll quote these ayat of qital for you. Surah Tawbah, there's so many verses of qital that are addressed in it. In other areas of Quran, there are so many ayat that have a very harsh tone to it. They address and they stick to those ayat. They go ahead and explore Quran. Quran is available for everyone. They extract these verses and they use them out of context. So for example, the ayat of Quran that exists that says, run after these infidels, kill them, slay them until they're submissive. So that ayah exists in Quran, Moulana? Yes, that ayah exists in Quran. But why do we have such harsh ayat in Quran? And that's the same thing what these people are saying, that non-Muslims, for example, are infidels, and hence Quran is addressing them, run after these infidels, kill them, slay them until they're submissive. What is the rebuttal to such a question? We're dumbfounded, we can't answer it, because we can't say, well, this ayat doesn't exist in Quran. Some of us will doubt, no, I don't think this ayat is in Quran. Believe it or not, this ayat is in Quran. And similar verses do exist in Quran. But there's a way of understanding it. You take it out of the context, obviously you'll run into trouble. That's what these people are doing by abandonment of Quran. And we abandoned it by not reading it properly and understanding such verses and even knowing that these verses exist in Quran so that we can go ahead and research about them. So that's again abandonment on our part. So what's the parallel to that ayah which says run after these infidels, kill them, slay them until they're submissive? Well, this ayah has a context of revelation. It's not applicable today that anyone who is not a Muslim, you go ahead and run after them. No, there's so many other verses that talk about living in peace and harmony. You know, tell the Ahl Kitab, you know, ala kalimatin wa, and you come on a single word. Let's get together. Let's cause harmony and peace amongst ourselves. So bring them together. There's so many other verses that talk about bringing them together. Why are you focusing on this ayah which is saying, you know, run after them? Well, no, at least this ayah exists. So what is the... Well, this was a peace treaty that was made in the time of Rasulullah. Rasulullah made this treaty with the mushrikeen of Makkah. Then the treaty was that they will not, you know, they will not hurt anyone, harm anyone, they will not attack anyone. And there was this, you know, agreement between the two so that they may be able to move around the cities for, you know, trade purposes without carrying heavy arms. Imagine you're driving in this part of the world, although, you know, NRA would say another, but you can, you know, take your weapons around. There's nothing wrong with it. But imagine if you had to take the weapons around in order to what? Secure yourself. Protect yourself. Because there's some sort of fear that exists out there. As some of these, you know, components of NRA, they will say, oh, there's a fear, so that's why I'm carrying my firearm with me. But you don't have any fear. You're driving from here to your home. What is the fear? You don't need to carry the firearms. But there are certain places in the world that some of us come from. Let it be Pakistan, or it may be Afghanistan or other places, that you have to carry the arms with you. Why? Because otherwise you're putting yourself in danger if you can't defend yourself. So imagine at that time in Arabia, when they did not have these vehicles, they had to travel on these horses and camels, go far distances all the way to Syria and south to Yemen for trade purposes. And then they're carrying on top of all the goods, they have to carry the weapons as well. It was very difficult. They made this peace treaty for the betterment, that nobody will, you know, hurt each other, harm each other. We will not engage into any battle. That was peace of mind. Now the path is clear for us. We're safe, so we don't have to carry any more arms. But that was the case. These mushrikeen, they breached the document, they breached the treaty, they broke the rule, they ambushed the Muslims, and they killed them. Islam is at a very fragile state at that moment. That's when the ayah came down. Run after these infidels. Kill them, slay them until they're submissive. Take back what belongs to you. Why? Because you yourself are in a very fragile state. If all that you had, very little, is taken away from you, you will be leaving this religion as well. Like, I may as well go back to being a mushrik. If you read the beginning verses of Surah Ankabut, inshallah, during the Layali al-Qadr, you will recite Surah Ankabut. These first 7 or 10 verses are reflective of what I'm talking about. that أَحَسِبَ النَّاسَ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. That people believe that they will be left alone, and they will not be tried. Just the fact that they said we have brought Iman. And then ayat continue. Who are these addressing? These addressing those new Muslims who left Makkah, came with Rasulullah to Medina. Their parents were still there. Their siblings were still there. There were many factors that could bring them back to kufr and shirk. So it was very difficult for them. So they were going through all of these difficult times. And so whenever they would go back, or whenever there would be some sort of meeting, their parents will try to tell them, come back. Why are you going towards... All of these things existed. And so this ayat was revealed under that context. So before getting into tangents, this ayat was revealed under that context. So if anyone misquotes this ayat today in the name of jihad, it's misusing this Quran. It's abandonment of this Quran. And if you and I cannot defend it, it's due to our inability. That is also abandonment of Quran. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that's as far as mutashabihat is concerned. I just wanted to quickly run down some of the effects of reciting Quran and some of the ahadith that we have received as far as Quran is concerned. So for example, distinction of Quran, the miracles of Quran, a distinction of the stories that are mentioned in Quran, and different types of recitations that exist in Quran. All of these are studies on their own, but inshallah we'll just highlight them in the brief time that we have. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam said, and know that this Quran is an advisor who never deceives, a leader who never misleads, and a narrator who never speaks a lie. No one will sit beside it, and when he rises, he will achieve one addition or one diminution. Addition in his guidance or elimination in his spiritual blindness. This is in Nahj al-Balagha, Sermon 176. Imam is saying, or 183, either one of them. Imam is saying this Quran is a guide. Yes. It adds every time, I mentioned this example yesterday, that every time there are many books that you've read in your life. You read it once, twice, 3 times, don't want to read it again. Quran is a book that every time you open up, you read it, you get something new out of it. And that's why I mentioned this last night as well, and there are more people, I'll repeat this, that don't just be in a race to finish as many Qurans as possible in the month of Ramadan, because there's thawab of reciting Quran. That's fine, recite as many as you want. But instead of reciting 5 Qurans in the month of Ramadan, recite once with translation, and if possible with tafsir and understanding of it. That will go far long beyond than reciting it 5 times or 10 times, depending on the speed that you have. So there are many effects, inshallah I'll get to that. Distinction of Quran. It says in Surah Dukhan, أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ إِنَّا كُنَّا مُنذِرِينَ. That we sent it down on a blessed night, and we've been warning mankind about this book and about what is in it. Quran is blessed from every aspect. Look at the blessings that it has. That from the aspect of the one who revealed it, it said, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي نَزَّلَ الْفُرْقَانِ. Glorified is Allah who revealed this book. So Quran is glorified, and Quran is blessed from the aspect of one who revealed it. From the aspect of where it was revealed, بِبَكَّةِ مُبَارَكَةٍ, that it was revealed in Makkah Mubarakah, Makkah, the blessed city. From the aspect of when it was revealed, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah, that we revealed this Quran on a blessed night. From the aspect of its content, it says, Kitabun anzalnahu ilayka mubarak. The book that we have revealed unto you is what? Is blessed. The contents of this book is blessed. It is a book which is benevolent. This is indeed a noble Quran. In a guarded book. No one touches it except the pure ones, sent down gradually from the Lord of all the worlds. Quran alongside with it, which it is associated with, is also benevolent. Not only Quran is benevolent, but that which comes in association with Quran becomes benevolent as well. Allah is Kareem. Ma gharraqa bi rabbikal Kareem. The Rabb is Kareem. Quran is Kareem. Innahu la Quran Kareem. Innahu la Quran Kareem. That this Quran is also Kareem. Prophet is Kareem. Waja'ahum Rasulun Kareem. Came with them is Rasul who is Kareem. Jibreel is Kareem. Innahu la qawlu Rasulin Kareem. In that surah which talks, Surah Takbir, which talks about, burying the girls alive, talks about this as well. That who is this Rasul and Kareem? It's not referring to Rasulullah, it's referring towards Jibreel who brought this Quran. Insan is Kareem. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا Bani Adam. That we made honorable this Bani Adam, upon whom this Quran is being revealed. Amir al-Mu'mineen in sermon number 152 calls Ahlul Bayt to be Kareem as well. He said, Kara'imul Quran. We Ahlul Bayt are who? We are Kara'imul Quran. So Allah is Kareem, Quran is Kareem, Prophet is Kareem, Jibreel is Kareem, Insan is Kareem, and Ahlul Bayt are also Kareem. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Miracle of Quran. There's so many miracles that are associated with Quran. Obviously don't have time to go into the miracles of it, but just one miracle that is apparent to us. It's a book. And that was the miracle of Rasulullah. It was the biggest miracle. Why? Because at that time in Arabia, people were taking pride in their poetry and prose. They're bragging about. And that's why whoever brought the best poetry would be hanged inside the Kaaba. That was the honor given to them. So amongst them, in the midst of these people, Allah sends this book to Rasulullah. Rasul to whom they think that he was illiterate in a sense that he did not attain a word of knowledge in this world. He did not attend any institution, any school, any madrasa, no. He brought all the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they say, well, he's illiterate. So they could not say that he produced this book. And that's why this book is a miracle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah challenges in Quran. There are 3 challenges that you find in Quran. First, in Surah Baqarah 23. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَىٰ عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِّثْلِهِ. If you have any doubt that this is from him, our Prophet, then bring something like this, if you can. Use all your resources that you want to. Invoke anyone who you want besides Allah, should you be truthful. Go ahead, get all the help. Cheat as much as you want to. Get help from anywhere that you want to. When they couldn't, Allah lowered the challenge. He said in Surah Hud 13, أَمْ يَقُولُونَ افْتَرَاهُ قُلْ فَأْتُوا بِعَشْرِ سُوَرٍ مِثْلِهِ. You can't bring the entire Quran? Bring 10 forged chapters like this, if you have the ability. Use all your help that you want to. They were not able to produce 10 chapters like it. Then you see in Surah Tur 34, فَلْيَأْتُوا بِحَدِيثٍ مِثْلِهِ إِن كَانُوا صَادِقِينَ. Bring forth one ayah of the likes of Quran, of the verses of Quran. Even they could not bring one verse of Quran, or the likes of the verses of Quran. This is where we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wraps up the entire chapter by saying, قُلْ لَإِنِ اجْتَمَعَتِ الْإِنسُ وَالْجِنُّ عَلَىٰ أَن يَأْتُوا بِمِثْلِ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ لَا يَأْتُونَ بِمِثْلِهِ. If all of the jinns and mankind were to get together to forge and bring forth a Quran like this, they will never be able to do such a thing. So that's the challenge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala poses in this Quran. Salawat bi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So Quran has the ability to squeeze exalted messages in small sentences. I have so many examples in front of me, I fear that I will not be able to do justice to them. For example, Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. They are your garments and you are their garments. If you've ever attended where I was reciting a nikah, I will explain this ayah in details. That they are your garments and you are their garments. It's an analogy. It's being used as an example for husband and wife who are being compared in reference to one another as garments. You see how Quran did not... I lost the mic. You see how Quran did not differentiate between the types of garments they are. It It did not say they are superior garment, you are inferior garment. It did not say they're silk or pure silk and you are, for example, polyester or cotton or whatever other garments that exist. It said, Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. They are your garment and you are their garment. What is the purpose of garment? Garment, this libas, is there for certain features. One of the features of this libas is what? It protects your body from warm and cold temperatures. You know, when it gets hot outside, you dress according to the weather. When it gets cold, you dress according to the weather. And even in summertime, keeping modesty in mind, you dress accordingly, but dress lightly. Yesterday was very warm, so you dress accordingly. Today it was raining and it was pretty chilly, so you dress accordingly. So you can protect your body from warm and cold weather. That's one feature of libas. That's why you put on this libas. How does that relate to husband and wife? Well, it's very little. Why? Because as husband and wife, there are arguments, there are ups and downs, there are ebbs and flows in life, and hence there will be temperaments. Hot-headedness, cold-headedness. One will maybe having a bad day, they're hot. This is where the other one has to stabilize the temperature. So if they're both are hot at the same time, if they're both heating up at the same time, it will only lead to further trouble. But this is where if one is hot, the other one has to go ahead and cool it down, stabilize it. That's the way it works. And it's not throwing down on anyone. That always wife has to, play that role. No. Sometimes husband has to play that role. I give this example that Imam Khomeini, his daughter narrates this. She said, when I got married, my father gave me an advice. He said to me that whenever your husband yells at you, or he's shouting at you, even if he's wrong, he's shouting at you, yelling at you for something that had happened, don't respond. Delay your response by 5 to 10 minutes when he has cooled down. Because eventually this anger will come down. Now when you speak to him after 10 minutes, not only he will realize if he was wrong, he'll understand what you're saying. And it will not escalate the argument further. She said, the irony was that my father gave the same advice to my husband as well. So it works both ways. Not only does the wife has to play this role, but the husband also has to play the similar role. So, one ayah, Hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahunna. I can give you 6 or 7 more examples of the features of this libas. But brevity of time will skip. So there's ayat of Quran. In one ayah is a whole entire chapter that is hidden. That's why you see these scholars who come, they choose one ayah and they speak 1 hour about that ayah. And even then, they have not done the haqq of addressing this ayah. There are different distinctions of the stories of Quran that is mentioned, and as well as the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to address. Once again, that is to bring us out of this abandonment. Why are these stories being told? These stories are being told not so that we read it as a novel and we feel good about our history and we close the books. So for example, you find in Surah Yusuf, it says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ بِمَا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. That we will recount to you the best of the narratives in what we have revealed to you of this Quran. And indeed, prior to it, you were among those who were unaware of it. Allah is narrating the stories. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ. At one point, someone is telling you a story. At one point, Allah is telling you the story. Just imagine the difference between the two. All the stories have objective. نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ. The accounts of the apostles and the prophets are those by which we strengthen your heart. Nothing is fiction in Quran. Everything is true, what is being addressed. Based on the knowledge of unseen. It's not guesses and fairy tale which is being addressed in Quran. These stories in Quran make you think and contemplate. فَقْصُصْ الْقَصَصَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Recount these narratives so that you may reflect upon them. These stories of Quran serve as examples and lessons and not for amusement. These are different purposes as far as some of these stories are concerned. Towards the end, many ayat of Quran or many surahs of Quran have their own specific fada'il. For example, Surah Waqia has this extraordinary fadila that a riwayah mentioned the person who recites Surah Waqia on daily basis, poverty will not reach him. Poverty will not overcome him. And even in order to gain your sustenance or to increase your sustenance, it is highly recommended to recite Surah Waqia. Well, so I've been reciting Surah Waqia all my life. It hasn't happened to me. Allah has given you your share. But it's not just recitation, you have to do something on your own as well. You can't just make dua and hope for that thing to be found. You have to go out and look for that thing and make dua at the same time to include and induce barakat in there. For example, Surah Tawheed, the surah which everyone has memorized. Sa'ad ibn Ma'az, his namaz janaza, Rasulullah was leading and he said 90,000 angels along with Jibreel were sharik in performing this namaz janaza. Rasulullah is leading, that's enough an honor. But he said 90,000 angels along with Jibreel. He said, why? Because Sa'ad used to recite Surah Tawheed when he would wake up, when he would sit down, when he would go to sleep, when he would be walking. In all of his, actions, he would recite Surah Tawheed. That recitation of Surah Tawheed did what? That 90,000 angels are taking part in his janazah. And similar to that, you will find many other aspects as far as the recitation of Quran. One last thing that I'll leave you with, that what are some of the benefits of reciting Quran? One beautiful hadith from our first Imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. And he addresses in reference to our houses. He said, إِنَّ الْبَيْتَ الَّذِي يُقْرَأُ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ وَيُذْكَرُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ فِيهِ, house in which Quran is recited and God is remembered. He said, تَكْثُرُ بَرَكَتُهُ, the barakat increase. If you ever seen that barakat are not increasing, that means Quran is not being recited. God is not being remembered in that house. تَحْضُرُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, angels gain access to such houses. تَحْجُرُ الشَّيَاطِينَ, Satans stay away and refrain from these houses. يُضِيءُ لِأَهْلِ السَّمَاءِ كَمَا تُضِيءُ الْكَوَاكِبْ لِأَهْلِ الْأَرْضِ, this house shines for the inhabitants of heavens the same way the stars shine for the inhabitants of this earth. But on the contrary, إِنَّ الْبَيْتَ الَّذِي لَا يُقْرَأُ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ, house in which Quran is not recited, تَقِلُّ بَرَكَتُهُ, barakat decrease. تَحْزُرُهُ الشَّيَاطِينَ, shayateen gain access to houses. تَحْجُرُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, malaika stay away. Quran is not recited, instead music is being played out loud. Do you think angels will come to this house? No, shayateen will come to such houses. Barakat will increase? No, barakat will decrease of that house. Even if you see apparently there's affluency, there's abundance coming, no. Even the barakah, you could have a lot but have no barakah. You could have little and have a lot of barakah, if you understand that aspect. So that's the house which Ma'asumeen want to see. This is an Isar Sawab Majlis for Marhum Haji Moulana Kazmi. I did not have the pleasure to knowing the Marhum, but I was informed of his good nature, the life that he spent, and the things that he accomplished, that he was so kind, that he took care of everyone. And he left a family of mu'mineen. That's another thing. That you could have awlad, but have an awlad which is what? Obedient and salih. And that's something which Haji Moulana did, devoted to religion and kept his family on the religion as well. Especially in this type of environment that we live in, it's a very difficult task. That in the morning when a person goes to work or goes to school, when you send your children, you don't know if they'll remain on the straight path. So to be able to accomplish such feat is highly commendable. So we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate his status, give him a place in Jawar of Ma'asumeen alayhi wassalatu wassalam. And towards the end, let's recite the Surah Fatiha for his departed soul. وتقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
جزاك الله خير.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا